Yesterday, I won an NBA playoff game. Today, after work and running some errands, maybe I'll win a baseball game or another sporting event as well. Many are doing this every day on their gaming devices, and some have earned a college scholarship and maybe even made careers out of playing their favorite video games. Carl Leone joins us now on the MegaCast. He is the head coach of the Oakland University Esports team. Carl, thank you for being with us again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So for those that aren't familiar with the esports program at Oakland University, tell us about the program, when it started, and where it's at right now.
Yep, so I started the program at Oakland University, got hired in March 2020. So it was our first competitive year in the fall of 2020. Competitive esports teams on the collegiate level compete under athletics for the most part. For Oakland University, we're under athletics, and we compete against other teams across North America. There's about 400 or 500 teams in North America with varsity teams who take it very seriously, most of them offering scholarships to players. Our team does as well. So just for reference, Oakland University has amazing athletic support. Oakland University esports team has the same kind of support. So we're talking scholarships and sports psychologists and medically trained staff, physical training, nutritionists, the works. And so we're very blessed in this situation to be able to move the bar forward for college esports.
So when we first talked to you, there were only I think one, maybe two games that specifically that your program was competing in. Where is that at now? Have you expanded that program to more games and more opportunities then for esports athletes to join the program?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've added to 4 games now. We have Overwatch, League of Legends, Rocket League, Smash Brothers Ultimate. We've also doubled the size of the team. So last year in 2020, we had 14 students the very first year. We've doubled up to 28. And I've got plans to continue to increase that year over year. And at some point, we're going to have to stagnate that.
So as the head coach, coaching several different games, how do you manage that? Are you relatively averse at each one of these games? Do you have assistant coaches that are a little bit more familiar with each of those? How do you go about coaching these players in these specific games that maybe they have a lot more expertise in than maybe you do?
Right. It's an interesting scenario where we're right in the infancy stage, right? This didn't exist 7 years ago. And so when you have a coach like myself, who maybe I specialize really well in a game called League of Legends, that's one of our games. I used to be a collegiate athlete in that game. So I can certainly coach those players. But when we're talking about our players being in the top 1% of players in North America, it's not exactly realistic to expect one person to be able to coach in League of Legends and Overwatch and Smash Brothers and Rocket League. It'd almost be like asking a collegiate coach to coach football and soccer and tennis. It's wildly different games. And so we work off of a system with assistant coaches, like you had mentioned, who specialize in each of the games on a volunteer basis to be able to help our teams and really support them to be successful.
And talk about your background, how you got into esports, and then how you got into coaching esports. Because you mentioned that you were an esports athlete when you were in college. How did you get into esports as an athlete, and then transition into coaching after you graduated?
Yeah, I'd been playing League of Legends for about, I have now for about 9 years, but at the time, maybe 6 years, I'd been playing League of Legends when I'd come out of high school. And I got recruited to Robert Morris University. Actually I think I saw an ad on Facebook that they were offering scholarships. They were the first school to offer scholarships in the U.S. for gamers. So that was huge news. I went ahead and applied, got the position there. During the 4 years that I was at Robert Morris University, we were top 4 in North America all 4 years, and 2 of the years we were actually second place. We got runner-up in the national or international finals. So very successful team. I'm very proud of that background that I come from. After I graduated, I volunteered as a coach for Aquinas College, which is on the west side of Michigan. And after a year of doing that, I am lucky enough to be able to fill the position here at Oakland. When they knew they wanted to start a program and they didn't know who was going to lead it, I got through the interview process, and I've been here ever since.
We're joined by Carl Leone, the esports coach at Oakland University, joining us on the Michigan MegaCast. More information on Oakland University's esports program and all their other athletics at oakland.edu. That is oakland.edu. And recently, the university played host to high school esports championships. Can you talk about the tournament? And are some of the competitors at that tournament, are they future Golden Grizzlies esports athletes?
I love that specific end of the question. Yeah. So we partnered with Michigan High School Esports League to host the state finals for their esports. We held the finals for League of Legends, Rocket League, and Smash Brothers. The winners on Saturday, spoiler alert, was Bloomfield Hills, Byron Center, and also Bloomfield Hills, because we're competing in multiple games.
Okay.
So it was a fantastic event. We're just so happy to be able to support high school esports and put on an amazing event. We had about 100 spectators there, so that was just fantastic. To your point, are there any future Golden Grizzlies, maybe gamers out there? I actually had a few conversations with players that I was interested in recruiting who were interested in Oakland and weren't quite sure. So I expect one or two of the individuals from the event to be coming onto our roster next fall.
And so when you're recruiting an esports athlete, what's that process like, similar to recruiting for other sports at the university level? Are there scholarships available, and what range of scholarship opportunities might be available for esports athletes?
Yeah, there are scholarships available, to those players who are in the top ranking. And if you're a gamer, you know the ranking system really well. If you're within that top 1% of all players in North America, you'll definitely be able to secure a scholarship at a college. It's just getting in contact with the coach. The scholarships range, a huge range. There are some schools out there, maybe a handful, that give full ride scholarships for esports. That's been around for about 2 years now, and it's been expanding. But I would say the average scholarship for esports athlete is somewhere around $1,500 to $2,000 per year. So a substantial amount of money, especially at a more affordable school rather than like a private school.
We're joined by Carl Leone. He is the head coach of the esports team at Oakland University, joining us on the Michigan MegaCast. So how was the performance of your team this year? Where in the national ranks and among the other universities in the state that may also have esports teams does Oakland University fare?
I'm glad you asked. So I'll touch specifically on a Rocket League team because they, have been our most successful team this year. Our Rocket League team qualified for CRL, which is Collegiate Rocket League, essentially the top 32 teams in North America. This is the first time that our team has ever qualified for this, so it's huge news. We went on to make the playoffs for CRL, and then now we've qualified for the World Championships. What that essentially means is that we're top 10 in North America and top 16 in the world in college Rocket League. So we'll be flying out to Texas in early June to compete in the World Championship. So our Rocket League team has just been incredible and playing out of their minds recently. So I'm just so excited to talk about them.
And can you talk also, Carl, about the uniqueness of having a team that is co-ed in college sports? Because even in sports that could be co-ed, it's usually divided into a men's sport and then a women's sport. And in esports at Oakland University, that is an entirely co-ed team.
Right. This is actually the only co-ed team at Oakland University. So, for me, I think esports is inclusive in a lot of ways where there isn't any kind of physical barrier between one player to the next. There's some reaction time or what have you. But, in traditional sports, that might be the reason why there's a separation between male-female leagues. That's just not relevant in esports. So we can have a co-ed team and it really doesn't matter. We have women players on our teams, and they compete at a really high level. They're within the top 4% of all players in North America, and they're serving our team so well. I've really enjoyed the diversity within the team, and I feel that it brings a better team cohesion at the end of the day, a little bit more camaraderie.
We're joined by Carl Leone. He is the head coach of the Oakland University esports team, joining us on the Michigan MegaCast. More information on the team and all other athletics at Oakland University by visiting their website, oakland.edu. That's oakland.edu. And I also understand from my notes here that two of the women that are on your team are among some of the best esports players in the entire country. Can you talk about them and where some of your individual players rank among the best of the best in the entire country in esports?
Yeah, so we have two women on the Overwatch team and one on the League of Legends team. All three of these players are within the top 4% of all players in North America. Now that includes the professional players. So if you're familiar with gaming, there's no separation between collegiate, amateur, and pro when you talk about this ranking system. So to be in the top 4% of millions of players is incredible. So yeah, I'm really happy to have them join, and happy that we were able to find them and have them join the team.
So if there are esports athletes at the high school level, or even just video gaming enthusiasts that maybe aren't on a team but are looking for opportunities like this at Oakland University or other institutions, what should they be doing in order to get in contact with the recruiters or to get the attention of recruiters at the university level for potential scholarship opportunities to be on this university athletics team?
It's a great question. If your goal is to get onto a collegiate esports team, the most important thing to check is what game title you're talking about, because it's almost like saying, hey, are you interested in the sports? Can you get a scholarship? It's like, well, let's make sure you're playing the right ones that actually offer scholarships. So right off the top of my head, League of Legends, Rocket League, Smash Brothers, Valorant, Overwatch are probably the top contenders. So if you play any of those games or maybe similar games, you might want to think about transferring into those games and sharpening up those skills. Those are the most popular ones at the collegiate level. So if you're looking to get a scholarship, that would be the best way. And then once you're in a high ranking, like I said, let's say top 5% ranked nationally in those games, then I would go ahead and start reaching out to college coaches. There's magnificent websites that summarize all of the programs in the country. The best one that I've seen is lfgroup.gg. That one's fantastic. You can search by state, by scholarship amount, by varsity program, what games they have. So that'd be the best way to get the good information, and then just reach out to the coach. The collegiate esports has been growing, doubling year over year, the amount of programs. So I'm telling you, coaches out there cannot find enough players. There's a disconnect in the communication line. So there's coaches who desperately want players. So it's all about just getting in the right hands and talking to the right person.
We're joined by Carl Leone. He is the head coach of Oakland University Esports with us on the Michigan MegaCast. Carl, before we let you go, where do you see the future of esports going, particularly at the college level, in the next 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years even? Where do you see the expansion of esports going, as it's already had such a boom in just a few years, really, of existence?
Yeah, I see 5 to 10 years. I'll tackle that window because it's much easier, a little bit more conservative to go that route, right? So I would say 5 to 10 years, what you'll see is across collegiate, under certain programs, you're going to see it become its own mini athletic program, which is almost the way it operates right now. That's really what I consider my position, more or less, than just specifically coaching games, is I'm running an athletic program just for esports. So what I would say is you're going to see programs with 60 plus students in them across 6 or 7 different titles. And then you'll have a head coach who's part-time or full-time for each specific title, and that will set each team up for success. That's certainly not the norm right now, but I imagine that it will be within the 5 to 10 year period we're talking about.
Carl, thank you very much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.